Pay close attention. What you're about to see is Bible prophecy being fulfilled.
Welcome to another edition of YPN News, bringing you news as it relates to Bible prophecy and foretold by Israel Hawkins, where we're going to talk about COVID, but not really go into a lot about COVID itself, but what has been reported as some miscalculations by one of the largest, or if not the largest, organization concerning world health, that is the World Health Organization, and some of their numbers being off regarding deaths related to COVID. We're also going to look at some of the mass shootings. It's been a massive mass shootings since the Uvalde shooting in Texas, but just over the weekend there has been a slew of mass shootings. And also, many of you have probably been hearing about the monkeypox cases. Well, they are on the rise, and we're going to look at a video in regards to monkeypox, but also the population that is being the most affected. But first, we're going to look at the FDA, and its investigation of a recent hepatitis A outbreak, possibly linked to organic strawberries, with 17 cases so far found in California, North Dakota, and Minnesota, with 12 of those cases needing hospitalization. Well, the affected strawberries were sold between March and April at Trader Joe's, Walmart, and other stores under brand names of H-E-B and Fresh Campo. Authorities say if you have any of these strawberries, throw them out immediately.
Well, as the war in Ukraine continues, many of the commodities that Ukraine and Russia export have been reduced or put on hold completely. Now, one such thing is fertilizer. In Brazil, the world's largest soy producer is almost totally dependent on foreign sources for its fertilizer, with 86% coming from abroad. Now, much of it from Russia and Belarus. Even though Russian ships are still docking at Brazilian ports, farmers say that it is still not enough to supply the many fields with fertilizer needed to grow crops.
Well, because of market uncertainties, fertilizer costs have risen substantially. Last year, a 1-ton bag costed just $600. That's 1-ton bag of fertilizer. Currently, that price has doubled. Now, Brazil has chosen to be neutral regarding Russia's invasion of Ukraine, saying that this is what Russia is saying, or Brazil is saying, that fertilizer is sacred to the country.
And as the fertilizer is doubling, it seems like everything is following that same path, doubling in price.
That's right.
Well, the World Health Organization has acknowledged another miscalculation in its estimation on COVID-related deaths. Now, a report released on the 5th of May this year stated that COVID-related deaths between December 2020 and December 2021 was 14 to 16 million deaths, but more recent calculations have put those numbers at 3 times that estimate. Now, in India, the World Health Organization estimated 3 to 5 million, while the actual number was 10 times more than previously reported. And in Germany and Sweden have revised their numbers as well. So it sounds like everybody's following that path of revising, or, trying to do a better job at reporting the actual numbers.
Yeah, and when you take into consideration as well, not everybody who had a illness that brought about some type of death related to COVID came to the hospital, and those numbers were reported. So there were a lot of people in outlying areas that probably suffered, and those numbers are just now being collected. Well, another mass shooting at a medical center in Tulsa, Oklahoma has recently taken place. The suspect in this incident committed suicide. Well, since the mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas last week, this shooting makes not 1, not 5, but at least the 20th mass shooting. In each of those shootings, at least 4 people were shot or killed.
Well, as cities across the U.S. honor National Gun Violence Awareness Weekend, a slew of mass shootings from Philadelphia to Chattanooga brought awareness of gun violence, but in a negative way. Now in Philadelphia, 3 were killed and 12 injured after multiple shooters fired into a crowd of people. Now officers engaged one of the gunmen as he fled the scene.
In Chattanooga, Tennessee, a shooting near a nightclub left 3 dead and 14 injured. Across the country, the cities of Mesa, Phoenix, El Paso, Grand Rapids, Saginaw, Ecorse, Somerton, and Macon dealt with mass shootings that left an additional 9 dead and 34 injured. While more families bury their dead in Uvalde, Texas, fears of an active shooter in several malls in New York also sent shoppers running for their lives for shelter. Well, investigators there in New York say that fireworks was the cause that set off that panic.
Right, and you can see that everybody's kind of on edge with these, so any type of a sound like that, fireworks, they're going to be running.
Oh, yeah.
People are scared.
Most definitely.
Well, we're now going to turn to our field correspondent, Larry McGee, who has been covering a little bit more on the water crisis. We've talked about this in past reports on the scarcity of water, but he's going to focus in on one city there that's not really well known for practicing self-control, and they're having a problem with their water as well. Larry, what do you have for us?
Globally, concerns are trending high over water scarcity, and the United States is no exception. There are leading analysts who believe the world's dwindling water supplies are the area from which will spring the globe's next big crisis. American cities like Las Vegas have responded with strong efforts at conservation, including controversial measures such as complete recycling, where everything from the sink to the toilet is recycled and reused. In addition, the city has mandated the removal of all decorative grasses in preference for the drought-tolerant species of herbage that are characteristic of the region, and have hired and assigned officials to monitor residences for unauthorized waterways, such as allowing water to run from properties down city drains. Reports are that the city has managed to grow its population significantly while also cutting back notably on its water usage, so that it is being hailed by some as an example for addressing and combating the effects of climate change, while others see all the municipalities' self-aggrandized triumphs as yet another band-aid for an ill-conceptualized and ever-worsening problem. For YPN News, I'm Larry McGee. Katan Jeff, back to you.
Well, it seems like interesting in a place where people seem to go at excess, Las Vegas, that they're actually trying to be extremely mindful of their water conservation. Not sure how other countries or other cities, I guess I should say, are going to kind of take that cue in regards to their water conservation, but we're continuing to see water levels drop throughout the United States more and more every day. Well, monkeypox. What is it and how is it spread? While this is not a new disease and actually common among some regions, there is a new understanding of how the most recent outbreak is being transmitted. Please watch this video to get a better understanding.
Let's talk about monkeypox and whether we should be worried. Since early May, cases have been confirmed in countries where it doesn't usually occur, and those numbers are growing. Monkeypox is a virus. If you get it, some of the first symptoms might feel like the flu. Body aches, fever, swollen glands, and then a rash, which typically starts on the face before spreading to other parts of the body. That rash produces flat lesions, which then fill with fluid until they eventually scab and fall off. Most people recover from monkeypox on their own in 2 to 4 weeks. And so far, no deaths have been confirmed from the latest outbreak. But it can be a serious disease.
If you have a healthy immune system, you can pretty rapidly clear the virus. Sometimes there are some bad side effects. So people have gotten eye infections in some cases, and it has resulted in blindness. There's severe scarring that can be seen in some cases.
Monkeypox is what's known as a zoonotic disease. That's an infection that can be passed between animals and humans. It was first identified in 1958 in lab monkeys in Denmark. That's how it got its name. But monkeys aren't the main carriers or spreaders.
It's actually believed that the reservoir, that is the types of animals that are harboring this and sort of keeping it alive in nature, are more likely to be rodents. They might be tree squirrels or dormice or Gambian rats.
The first known case in humans was identified in 1970 in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And now in parts of Central and West Africa, monkeypox is endemic, meaning it's regularly found there.
Let me talk about Nigeria. Between 2017 and now, we've had just about 500 cases confirmed. So really, in terms of number, it's not really a big problem.
Now, there are two known strains of the virus in those endemic regions in Africa. The Congo Basin strain is the more dangerous one, with a mortality rate that has reached 11% in some outbreaks. And then there's the West Africa strain, which is less severe and has a mortality rate of around 1%. And the evidence suggests that the current outbreak is linked to this strain. Now, monkeypox has been found outside of the endemic regions in the past. For example, there was an outbreak in the US in 2003. But in that case, and others, outbreaks have always been linked to a person or animal that has traveled from the endemic regions. What's happening now, though, seems different.
What's really unusual about this is that there are so many cases that are spreading outside of the normal area where we normally see monkeypox emerge, and that this is obviously being driven largely by human-to-human transmission rather than transmission from rodents.
So how does monkeypox spread between humans? Well, it generally requires close physical contact.
The pox lesions, the sores that occur with this infection, are full of virus. And if the person who's not infected touches that place where the wound or the sore is, they can become infected themselves if there's a break in their skin.
You can also get it indirectly, for example, by sharing bed sheets or towels that have been contaminated. It can also be transmitted through respiratory droplets, for example, if an infected person coughs or sneezes. But we're talking about large droplets, which can't travel far. So you'd need prolonged face-to-face contact to catch it that way. So keep in mind, in general, monkeypox doesn't spread that easily.
This is a self-limiting disease. It doesn't spread like COVID.
You usually have to have a pretty significant exposure to an infected person in order for human-to-human transmission to occur. And this is thought to be one of the reasons why, when cases have been exported from the endemic area, there's typically not large outbreaks associated with it.
Now, the World Health Organization says that so far the new monkeypox cases reported have mainly been among men who have sex with men.
Well, it seems like everybody's going to have their eyes focused on the monkeypox, seeing if this is going to be a big disease that takes off amongst people. And you see there, as was reported, how they're saying that this is mostly spread. And again, it comes down to the choices that people are making. A lot of these diseases are just that. You know, they come from a lack of a moral choice that people are making.
That's right.
Well, the Biden administration has vowed to send Ukraine mid-range missiles that are capable of reaching Russia. Anthony Blinken said, quote, "We moved quickly to send Ukraine significant amounts of weapons and ammunition so that they can repel Russia's aggression," end quote. Now, the Secretary of NATO stood at the podium next to Secretary Blinken, affirming NATO's support for Ukraine as well. Now, after the announcement, Russia said they would be holding nuclear military exercises involving 1,000 Russian troops and about 100 pieces of equipment.
Mark Montgomery from the Foundation for Defense of Democracy says these medium-range rockets are an improvement over the 90 M177 howitzers that were sent over the last 3 weeks. He told CBN News, quote, "Those howitzers have made a big difference in the ability of the Ukrainians to stymie Russian advances in Donbass," end quote.
But the howitzers can only travel about 20 miles, where these medium-range missiles can make it about 50 miles. Well, President Zelensky has been begging for the high-tech equipment so they could more accurately strike back at Russian troops. Now, not only is the U.S. sending these farther-reaching rockets, but the $700 million weapons package is also including helicopters, Javelin anti-tank weapons, as well as tactical vehicles. So quite a package there, $700 million.
That's right. Cries of nuclear testing are coming once again from North Korea, where they just launched 8 short-range ballistic missiles that landed off its eastern coast. This is the 18th reported missile test since the beginning of the year, and despite sanctions against the country, North Korea continues to build its military strength.
Well, this most recent and large-scale testing of weapons appears to be in response to a 3-day joint military drill between the U.S. and South Korea, which involved the USS Ronald Reagan aircraft carrier. Now, this is the first joint drill with South Korea's new president, Yoon Suk-yeol, and the first one involving an aircraft carrier since the fall of 2017. And we know those aircraft carriers are loaded, absolutely loaded with firepower, as one of the former presidents commented on, sending a huge armada, very powerful, commenting on the strength that these have.
That's right. Well, Pyongyang has historically protested the joint drills, claiming they are a dress rehearsal in preparation for an invasion into North Korea. Last month, North Korea also test-fired missiles, including its largest one, just days after U.S. President Biden held a summit with the new South Korean president. Now, there is concern that North Korea's 7th nuclear test will be coming soon.
Well, President Yoon Suk-yeol is taking a hard line against North Korea. Now, just a few weeks after entering office, he is already displaying a show of force with his U.S. partners in these joint military exercises. Take a look at yourself here at this video and just see some of the moves that he's making.
South Korea's new president vowed to take a tougher stance against North Korea, and early Monday may have been a glimpse of that approach. South Korea and the U.S. fired 8 surface-to-surface missiles, a joint military exercise that was in response to the barrage of missiles launched by the North just a day earlier. South Korea's military was cited by the country's Yonhap news agency as saying its actions demonstrate, quote, the capability and readiness to carry out a precision strike against North Korea. The South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, who took office last month, has agreed with the U.S. to upgrade joint military drills and their combined deterrence posture. At a memorial event on Monday, he said the North posed a threat to regional and world peace.
North Korea's nuclear and missile threats are getting sophisticated. It fired various ballistic missiles yesterday. North Korea's nuclear and missile programs are reaching the level that threaten not only the peace of the Korean peninsula, but also in Northeast Asia and the world.
North Korea has conducted a flurry of missile launches this year, but Sunday's short-range ballistic missiles were probably its largest single test to date. Washington and Seoul officials also recently warned that Pyongyang appeared ready to resume nuclear weapons tests for the first time since 2017. Last month, the US called for more UN sanctions on North Korea, but China and Russia vetoed the suggestion.
Yeah, well, it doesn't look like anything's really easing tensions between North and the South, and as long as the United States is being an ally to South Korea, that's going to keep tensions high with North Korea as well. Well, now to end, we go back to Ukraine and the latest advances by the Russian military. Using next-generation warheads, also called vacuum bombs, Ukraine's foreign minister is begging for more heavy weaponry to combat such weapons. Because of the overwhelming artillery use, Russia has captured more territory in Ukraine in recent days.
Well, Moscow is using thousands of troops to gain control of the Donbas region, attacking it from 3 sides. Now, Ukraine says Russian troops are advancing at a pace much faster than expected, and they are now outnumbered 7-1. But Ukrainian forces are determined not to go down without a fight. They feel the howitzers are helping to turn the tide for them in this war.
Well, one lieutenant colonel who trains Ukrainians for battle told CBS Mornings that, quote, the more howitzers we have, the easier it will be to fight Russia, end quote. The howitzers can reach a distance of 20 miles, as we said before. They shoot faster and can be hidden very easily. The CBS News crew witnessed its strength earlier in the week when it was used to protect their crew coming under Russian fire. A simple but mighty weapon against Russia aggression. Ukrainian forces believe it is key to helping them win the war against Russia.
The sad thing with that, Katan, is these, the Ukrainians are putting a lot of trust and hope in these weapons of war, and saying, hey, this is going to, win the battle, or they're hoping, we just reported they're outnumbered 7-1, but they're hoping that this is going to turn the tide for them. But, if you look past that and you see all the destruction that has already come to their country, the lives lost, the, now with the food shortage and the wheat crops that we've talked about, so many things tie into what we're seeing take place between Ukraine and Russia. Putting their faith in these weapons of war is really not a great place to be.
Yeah, I mean, and simply any, Ukraine, Russia, either one of those countries can just look back, let's just say over the last 500 years of history, and see that no occurrence of war has ever truly brought peace between two neighboring countries. It's only continued to bring suffering, and in most cases, as we reported in times past, to people who are far displaced from the war, like we're talking about with the food, the fertilizer, and everything. Many countries are being negatively impacted as a result of this conflict.
Right, and time again, we see that after the fighting, these two countries still have to work something out and come to some type of peace agreement. If they could just go from the beginning of the conflict right there and focus on the solution instead of all the destruction in between, it would just save so much for their countries, the lives and the infrastructure and the crops that we're seeing as well. So it's definitely a sad situation there taking place.
That's right.
If you'd like to learn more about these stories, contact the House of Yahweh. Once again, don't forget to request your free copy of the Prophetic Word magazine and monthly newsletter. Here's how.
To contact the House of Yahweh, you can write them at the House of Yahweh, P.O. Box 2498, Abilene, Texas 79604. You can call them at 1-800-613-9494. Visit them on any of their websites by going to Yahweh.com, YisraelHawkins.com, and Yahweh'sBranch.com. You can also go to our website by going to YPNnews.com. You can email the House of Yahweh at info@Yahweh.com. And for all calls outside the United States, please dial the number on your screen. And don't forget the Israel Says and Ask Israel programs. You can find those too by going to YisraelSays.com and AskYisrael.com.
Well, don't go anywhere. Up next is another message from Yisrael Hawkins, giving you the information that you need to protect yourself and your family for these days to come. From all of us here at YPN News, I'm Jeffrey Heimerman.
And I'm Katan Alexander.
Thanks for watching.